this website, which has done a great job of ripping 3D models from like PlayStation 2 games and just random stuff, and it's got it all for free online. Just these funny, low quality. Oh my gosh, these great low quality models. This is the models resource. So everyone go there. Just start looking through and finding something ridiculous, whatever you want. It should be a character because we're gonna rig them. Oh, we got Squidward. Some of these are actually really high quality. Well, that one's all right. I think I'll do Squidward. Yeah, the models resource. Go ahead and save your files into the Project 3 student folders. All right, I'll grab Squidward. Let's see what else. Wow. They have probably every character you can think of. Look, they got Thanos, characters I've never even heard of. So you'll grab your character, and then we're also going to grab the animation that we're going to put on the character. So the other website you want to go to is mixamo.com. And it's owned by Adobe, so you guys should be able to log in with your Adobe accounts. Darn. Well, this is a library of motion capture owned by Adobe. It looks like your guys' accounts can't access it. I can download some of these for you and we'll just share them. But there's a bunch of other places you can get mocap online.
You can make it, it's free, so you can make an account with your own email and you can just
Oh, sweet. Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe if you guys want to do that to get your own stuff, I'll also download whatever you guys want. Let me see if they have a dab, because I want Squidward to dab. Yeah, they got a lot of dance moves. Alright, I'm gonna do a backflip. So yeah, the Mixamo is really nice. You can even upload your own characters. So technically we could download our character here, upload it into Mixamo, and have the preview right there. We're going to be connecting them in Maya, and then we can render it straight out of there. So you just pick your animation. You can also get any mocap file from online. So I'll just download this from here. And I'll put this in a shared folder so you guys can grab this as well. Okay, so once you've got your model and your mocap as two separate files, we'll open up Maya. And this is a 3D software. You can do tons in it. It's very big and scary, but we'll be very straightforward with what we're doing. And hopefully it won't be as scary to you guys. So we'll start by bringing in our Squidward model. And this can be found in resources under Project 3. Or you could grab your own, whatever you want. So we'll grab the OBJ file, which is this 3D object here. This is a texture, and this is another texture file. So you want the 3D object, you can just drag and drop this into Maya. There he is, good old Squidward. We can zoom in, and we can rotate our camera by holding the Alt key and clicking and dragging the left mouse button. And all 3 mouse buttons move the camera around while you're holding Alt. So while holding Alt, I'm moving the middle mouse button, I'm clicking and dragging, the left mouse button, and the right mouse button to rotate, zoom, and pan around. So just kind of try and familiarize yourself with orbiting around in the viewport. So Squidward here, he needs some color. So what we want to do is we'll select our model, and it should pop up the attribute editor right here. If you're not seeing this, just click on the side, attribute editor. In the third tab here, this is our material. It looks like it already has a shader octopus. And it looks like it's already connected to the texture. So this color attribute here, if you just follow this little arrow, it'll show you it's connected to this texture file, which was right next to the model. So I'll just open this PNG up. This is the 2D image that gets wrapped around the 3D model. So since it's already assigned, all I have to do is hit 6 on the keyboard, and that'll enable textures. So now we can see them. It's also this little checkered circle here. So Squidward's looking great. And now we want to add a skeleton inside of him so that we can drive his model with the mocap. So we'll select the model. We'll go to the rigging tab. The rigging is the setting up of these bones that can be animated on a 3D model. And that changes this set of menus up here. So let's go to skeleton and quick rig. And this is really nice. Maya has an auto rigger. Rigging is usually a long and tedious and complicated process, but Maya has made an auto rigger that it gets the job done. It's not, feature film quality, but we're not going for feature quality right now. We're going for as low quality as we can. So we'll hit the plus to create a new character right here in the quick rig menu. We can rename our character by going to this little blue box here. This pops up. This is the human IK window, and that's the 4th tab on the right here. So I'll rename my character, this option right here, call him Squidward. And there's the one-click option. This really never works well, so I'm going to change this to the step-by-step option. So with step-by-step, you just add the geometry with the plus button here. You have to have it selected, so that adds his mesh. And then we'll create the guides. Step 2 right here, you hit create update, and that'll place little 3D locators where it thinks his body is supposed to be. It got it very wrong, so we'll have to reposition these ourselves. So we'll just select on one of these locators. Let's start with this center one here. And if you go to either the channel box or the attribute editor on the right-hand side here, you can see what it's named. So this joint here is named hips. So we want to move this to where his hips are. So we'll go to our move tool by hitting W. It's also right here. So you hit W, you get your move tool, you select your joint, and we'll move the joint down to his hips. So go ahead and do that for all the joints, move them into the right spot. I'll grab, this is the left upper leg, so I'll move that down. Right upper leg. And this might have actually been a bad choice because he's got 4 legs here. So we'll see how that goes. I think you can add extra legs. All right, it looks like it got the feet pretty well. That seems to be in the right spot. So you want to do it at the top of the leg, the upper leg and the knee area, and then the ankle area. And there's also a toe. And these are where the rig is going to rotate from. So think about where the joint in the skeleton would be. So I'll keep going with the upper body. This is the spine. I'll move it a little lower. And there's a couple spine joints because spines are flexible. So just stack them on top of each other, kind of spread them out evenly. All right, all four of these are all the arms, so I'm just going to move all these down together. Let's see. Left shoulder, that's good. Left arm. This should be where the... Yeah, actually, that seems right. Because there's the shoulder, which is more like your clavicle, and then your left arm, that is your shoulder joint. So these are actually all compact next to each other. And then the forearm is where the elbow should go. So this forearm joint, put it right where the elbow goes. And let me just check this model here. If you select the model, you'll see 2 edge loops right here. That's what's been defined as where to bend the elbow, right at these lines. So what we want to do is put the joint right between the 2. And something nice that we can do with this is instead of having to select my right forearm and move it into the same spot, I can actually just mirror over these translations. So I'll select my left elbow, and this button right here will symmetrically mirror these joints across. So now this right forearm is in the right spot because our model is also symmetrical. And we've got our hands to do. So this is probably the most tedious process, just placing where the joints should go. And this is pretty important. You got to get this right, otherwise your rig will be deforming strangely. So spend some time here, make sure you get it right, look at it from all angles. And once you're set, I think this looks pretty good. We can, first of all, save. Control S. I'll put this in my student folder. Alright, so once you have all your guide joints in place, under number 4, you want to create the skeleton and control rig. So I'll just create it right there. It'll do a whole bunch of things, very complicated, and we'll end up with this nice looking control rig. So this allows us to move Squidward around however we want. We can grab these red rings and slide it around like this, and you'll see the skeleton moves around. But Squidward is not following the skeleton, so we've got to attach his model to the skeleton, and that's this last step here, skinning. So it should be pretty straightforward. You shouldn't have to make any adjustments. Just go ahead and hit create, and that has now attached the model to the skeleton. So if we grab that red ring again and move it around, Squidward's arm now follows. Nice. Now we can animate. So let's also grab, so these red rings in this red square here, these are what's called IK controls, and it will move everything to fit where your red control curve is moving. If you select these yellow joints here, this is only going to let you rotate one specific joint. So I can only go to my rotate tool, which is right here. You can also hit E, so W and E to get back and forth between move and rotate. So with the joint selected, you can just move these, and you see it gets a little wonky. This can be cleaned up. I'm not going to bother you guys with the details of cleaning all this up because I think the general idea is there. So now that we've got Squidward, we don't want to animate him ourselves because that takes forever. Here's where we're going to use our mocap data. So we can drag that in from the folder. Backflip, we'll drag that in. So now we've got another object in here. You can see it in your channel box right here called Mixamo Rig Hips. And underneath that, there's all the other joints. We don't see it because it's very large, so if we zoom out, we'll see just the skeleton here. If we hit play, we can see the whole backflip animation. Very cool. So now we've got to retarget this mocap animation from the skeleton onto the control rig that we've made for Squidward. So we'll do that in our Human IK menu, which is on the right here, Human IK. So we've already created our Squidward character. That's already set up in Human IK. Now we need to set up the mocap character in Human IK as well. So we'll go into our character, drop down here, we'll select none. And what we want to do is create a character definition, because it already exists in the scene, we just want to define it. But the first thing we have to do is zero out these transformations. It's in a pose on every frame, and we want it to be in the default T pose. So on any of these frames, I'm going to go to the first frame. If you right click and hold on the joints, you can assume preferred angle. So I'm right clicking and holding and dragging to assume preferred angle. And if I let go of that, it snaps itself into a T pose. So this is where we want to define our custom character. So with your mocap joints in a T pose, we'll go create character definition. And now we're just going to be pairing these joints to this graphic here. We're just going to be telling Maya the hips right here. You can double click on them and then select the hips joint. And see, now it's green, it's connected the hips to the hips. So we can do this for every joint. Double click the spine, click on the spine, and it assigns. And we can do this for all the joints here, but we can speed this up by using a template, which is already built into Maya. So with just the first joint attached, so you only need one, but you do need at least one. So start with the hips, and then open this folder icon here, and using the HIK template, this should automatically be there, Mixamo rig, this prefix, because that's how it imported. So if you just hit OK, everything has turned green because this naming template knows what the arm is, what the hand is. So what you want is everything to be green. You want that green check mark right there. And once you have that green check mark, you're going to hit this lock button. That's very important. You have to lock your skeleton definition to be able to retarget. So it's still in the T pose, but if we scrub through our timeline, all that animation is still there. So we've got two characters in our Human IK window. We've got character 1 and Squidward. Character 1 is the one we just made, so let me rename that to mocap. Okay, here's the fun part. Let's go zoom in on Squidward here. And if you're having a hard time with your camera, just select whatever object you want to focus in on and hit F to focus. And that'll just center your camera around whatever object you have selected. So select Squidward, hit F, and let's retarget this mocap. So what we want to do is go to your character, your Squidward character, and the source for Squidward is going to be mocap. That character now appears there because we created it earlier. So this is actually correct because Squidward's legs were out at a 45-degree angle, and now they've been snapped to being upright. So if we hit play, he will do a backflip. It's a little hard to see because of these joints here, so I'm just going to turn off the joints. And now we'll start modifying our viewport to get our final image. So we're not actually going to do a full 3D render. We're just going to be recording a play blast, or basically a screen recording of our viewport here to be using in our meme video. So I'll close out of Quick Rig. And I want to hide all these joints. I don't want to see them. I don't need them anymore. So under the Show tab right here, turn off joints. And that hides all the joints. Let's watch our animation again. Wow, beautiful. So he doesn't get very much air. And that's something I want to fix. So I'm going to add that animation of him just going higher. So when we created our control rig, let's see if this will work. Yeah. This locator here was created for Squidward so that we can do exactly that, reposition him. So I want him to start at this height right here. And at this keyframe here, on keyframe 27, that's when I want him to start moving higher. So I'll start by setting a keyframe here. So at frame 27, I want the locator to be at this position in 3D space. So I'll hit S, and that creates this red keyframe here. So later in the timeline, I want him to be higher. So when he's up in the air here, frame 40, I want him to be higher in the air. So with W, my move tool, I can move him up in the air. And it's automatically set a keyframe for me now that I've moved it up. It'll only do that if you have auto keyframe turned on right here, this red button. Otherwise, you'll have to hit S again to set a new keyframe. And so he moves upward as he jumps. So we also got to move him back down by the time he lands. And that looks like on frame 45. So I'll move him back down. You can also copy and paste the original keyframe, which I'll do. Go to the keyframe, right click, copy. Next keyframe, right click, paste. And I'm just going to move this high keyframe over a little because he lands a little too fast. So I can shift click on this keyframe to be able to move it. It'll turn red, and now I can just slide it over to around halfway. And let's see how that looks. Ooh, almost. Let me just play with this a little bit more. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Nice. And I've only got about 100 frames of animation, so I'm going to trim this timeline here. With the time slider, I can just drag this down, or I can type 100 right here, because I only want 100 frames in my timeline. So now I'm ready to, I think I'm ready to export this out. Oh, I do need to hide this locator. I don't want to see that, and that's also in this show menu. Turn off the locator. We also want to turn off this grid, and that's this icon right here. Turn off the grid. So now we've just got Squidward back flipping. Sweet. So we're going to export this window out here, and we'll do that with a play blast. So you just right click and hold on your timeline. Play blast is just down here. We'll go to the options box to set our options. We'll use an image sequence, and we want them to be PNGs because we want transparency so that we can put a background behind him. Otherwise, if you use JPEG or anything else, this gray background will be baked into your image. So we want this to be transparent. So set it to PNG. Let's do 1920 by 1080. That's a solid HD resolution. Scale to 1, padding to 4, and very important, tick this save to file, otherwise it won't save anywhere, and choose where you'll save your image sequence to. So let's go to our folder. I'll make a new folder called render, or actually it's not a render, it's a play blast. And I'll call this version 1 because there's a high chance I'm going to redo this. As long as you don't name it final. Copy and paste this file path, so this is where I will browse to set my image sequence. I'll give it a name. And hit play blast. So that will play blast it out from this camera angle, so also consider where your camera is in space. And you might want to pick your background first, because that'll determine where your camera should be and what angle you should render out your 3D character from. I have an idea of what I want to do, so I didn't bring it in first. My idea is the Krusty Krab background. Music. Yeah, I want this boat here. Nice. I'm gonna grab this one. I'll use this one. So you can just save this out. You can copy it from Google Images. I'll save it to my student folder. And now we're done with Maya. We've gotten our 3D render, we've gotten our background, and we're going to composite these together in After Effects. So let's jump into After Effects and let's bring in our two elements. Double clicking in the project window to open up my importer. I'll go to my student folder. I'll bring in my background first. Simple to import that, but to import your image sequence, go into your PlayBlast folder. You'll see a series of images. This is what we exported out of Maya. Just select the first one and make sure PNG sequence is ticked here, because this will now read these series of images as a video. So we've got our two pieces of footage here. We've got our background, we've got our PlayBlast. You can hit play and see our animations there. So we want to start with our background because that'll be the size of our video. So I'll drag background onto the new composition button. And I can drag in my 3D animation on top of that. Since it has transparency, there's no issues. I'll scale it down. I'll hit S, drag the scale down. And I don't want that first frame where he's in that T-pose, so you can zoom in a bit. I'll just trim that first frame off. Slide my image sequence back one frame. So I think I'll have him backflip into the boat. So he'll start there, and then he'll jump. And right there is where I want him to now be behind the boat. So I'll make another layer by duplicating the background with Control D. I'll move that background layer on top of my PlayBlast. Now this image is on top of Squidward, and I want to mask just the boat out from this layer. So I'll go to my pen tool, and I will trace this boat, and I entered full screen just by hitting the tilde key. It's that little squiggly next to the 1. You can toggle back and forth between full screen if you need to make fine-tune adjustments like this. And if you want, you could hop in Photoshop and paint out this hand. I'm not going to do that, but you can do whatever background you want. So now we have an extra layer of this boat in the foreground on top of the Squidward render, and so he will appear behind it. But we only want this to appear when he's in the air. So I'll drag the beginning of this boat to right when he's in the air so it appears. So he's in front of it, and then the boat's in front of him. And we're also getting his head down here. We don't want that, so I'm actually just going to extend this mask because we don't need this line down here for any reason. And I think we did it. I'll trim my sequence to end here. So I'll just hit N, and that will bring my workspace to my time slider. And so now that I've set my workspace here, I'll right click on my work area. I'll hit trim comp to work area, and now my composition will end right here. And that's pretty fun. Trying to think what else I can do. If you want to color correct your character, you can do that too. So just select your layer, and we'll add the Lumetri effect. So under your effects and presets, type Lumetri. And we can just do a little bit of color to make him feel a little more natural in the scene. As natural as a 3D Squidward can be in a 2D background. But yeah, I hope you guys have fun with this. Make something wacky. I really enjoy making these, as you can see. So that's the lesson. Good luck.